What's up, everybody? Mike Lang in the homie webs back here for yet another episode of Hoodlum Cultured. Ah, it's been a week. It has been a long week. Lord knows.
I gotta say, now that 2021 is half over, it's been a good year. It's better than 2020, and I can't wait for 2022.
Half over in March. Indeed.
That's what it feels like. It feels like it's been 6 months.
Indeed. All right, so it shall be interesting. A lot of weird stuff happening, weird schedules for like the middle school and high school kids have some like pretty messed up schedules. And we got the testing situation as well, where that's going to be ridiculous, but it is what it is. We have hopefully happier things to talk about. And we're going to be talking about the crazy eights strategy. We're kind of go on a strategy binge webs in terms of things you could do, whether it's analog, it's digital, whatever. And let's start as we do with the Ask a Software Developer question. And on your day job, how do you come up with solutions with problems when those problems start to happen? What does that look like? Is it this is our set protocol, or you just make stuff up? Like, what does that look like in terms of problem solving?
Well, it depends on the problem for one, but I have Magical Gnome on my desk, and I just say, "Hey, Magical Gnome, I'm gonna need some solutions now."
That's always good to have magical gnomes.
No. So my job is it goes by a lot of names: site reliability engineer, DevOps engineer, whatever. Basically, the like one-liner for my job is like, I'm a computer doctor. So when things are broken, I figure out why they're broken and try to fix them. So when it comes to that kind of work, like something is down, part of the website is down, or it's not functioning as expected, it's basically scientific method. Like, I look at what evidence do I have in front of me and then start to draw conclusions based on that evidence. So if this thing is wrong, well, then that could mean that this thing is broken. So let me go look at that thing and see if there's logs or something to tell me that that thing is broken. So that's kind of one bucket of problem solving that I do. And then the other bucket of problem solving is like people-centric problems, I guess, is a way of thinking about it, or like the design type problems, I guess, is a better way of framing it, right? So it's either like, how can I improve the design of a meeting? How can I improve the design of something that we're building? If, we're trying to solve a problem, like we want to be able to have people call into their doctor remotely or something. Like, what does it look like to try and solve that problem? Koufax would like to make an appearance. He has not in some time. So that's like kind of another bucket. And for that, it's like a very different approach. So the design problems, kind of following the design thinking principle. Like, all right, so let's define exactly what it is that I'm trying to solve in the first place. So if it's trying to like improve how a meeting works, then I start to think about like, well, what's the actual problem we're having? Well, maybe it's that there's not a lot of participation. So how can I improve participation? Or maybe it's that, we're trying to solve a problem in that meeting and there's a better way we can go about it. So sometimes it's like random brainstorming. Sometimes I might like draw or doodle what my thoughts are. Sometimes I might rubber duck with a teammate and just throw out ideas. Sometimes I might do like a free write of, hey, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. What are all the thoughts that I have that come to mind? Sometimes I throw stickies up on a board, whether that's real or digital. Sometimes I'll go through the alphabet and write like ideas I have or associated ideas and words for each letter of the alphabet. Because sometimes like having that constraint can spark an idea. So, oh, hi, friend. Hello. And sometimes I like to throw a wrench in other people's brainstorming because I find we tend to get stuck down this like rabbit hole, or like we get laser focused on what we think the problem is, and then can't see any other solution to it. So sometimes when we're brainstorming as a team, I don't think I've done it on the team I'm on now, but I've done this with teams before. I'll be like, well, what if there was a tiger? Or what if we had a monkey that came in and, started tearing the place up? Just to kind of throw in some entropy to get people's minds like off of it. It's kind of like when you're trying to remember a thing, or find something and then if you stop thinking about it, that's when it like, aha, you have an aha moment. So that's trying to, jar that. So those are some of the things I do. What do you do to problem solve, Mike? I know I'm the software developer and the Ask a Software Developer, but I think brainstorming problem answers or like solutions to things is not a uniquely software developer oriented problem.
It is not. However, we want to ask a software developer first, so that kind of would set the show up. So we'll talk about what I would do potentially to solve problems in just a second. Uh, do you find yourself changing your philosophy toward problem solving depending on the nature of the problem, or you just do what you describe pretty much consistent?
Well, like I said, I think problem solving when a thing is broken versus problem solving like a design problem are slightly different. But then again, maybe not, because I still think that design thinking approach is still scientific method based, right? Like I figure out what I think the solution is, and then I test out that solution and then tweak what the different variables are as I go. So whether that's trying to figure out why a specific like service is down, or if it's trying to figure out how to improve participation in a meeting, I tweak the variables and test them out again, and then tweak the variables, get feedback, test them out again. So it's on a broad sense consistent, even if the specific strategy or implementation of that might be slightly different.
Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Now we started with that question because today we're going to talk about problem solving, but problem solving creatively. And I think a lot of times when we talk about problem solving, we're talking about concretely following a set of steps, which will lead us to an answer or solution of some sort. Today we're going to talk about creatively thinking about solutions to the problems from outside yourself, essentially. And that won't make a lot of sense now, but hopefully it will make a lot of sense by the time we finish. So people are going back to hybrid or back to school or whatever it is. And hopefully we're not going to be going back to school and just having kids sit and do worksheets or boring sitting in front of the machine and, being talked at for 50 minutes, hopefully. What we're going to try to talk through today is a very a very easy way to spark strange ideas being able to be cultivated in your classroom that will lead your students and hopefully into some fun times. All right. So the strategy is called Crazy Eights, and it is a strategy that I have co-opted and changed into my own thing. And so I'm going to show you my version of the thing. Originally, it was in what's the name of the doggone book? The Google Innovator Guys.
Sprint? No, not Sprint.
Yeah, the Sprint was in Sprint. So in Sprint, they used it as in Sprint. They do. I have co-opted it for my own use. What I'm going to show you tonight is not what they did in the Sprint book. It kind of gave me the idea for what I want to show you tonight. But it's one of the strategies that when I don't feel like going through some long, exhaustive process is going to be complicated for the kids to do brainstorming. I just want you to spit a bunch of answers out and think about a whole bunch of stuff. And I don't want to have what I hate is the like the pregnant pause where who has an idea, and people are like, and then people put
also blank canvas is intimidating. It's scary, and sometimes like that can lead to writer's block. That's why I like the idea of free writing, is because I'm just writing the ideas that come to my mind. I don't get like stuck by that writer's block of a giant blank page. But I think that when you're saying just brainstorm with no other boundaries, it becomes really intimidating.
I think it becomes a lot. The intimidation is worse when you're not brainstorming from a perspective, which is how I have co-opted the idea of Crazy Eights. So, in my version of the strategy, it is always looking at things from someone else's perspective and forcing students to think about it from someone's view that they're not used to. And that causes great pregnant pauses that are productive, in my opinion. Because now you're like, let me Google who that is. All right, cool. That person was a nun. If I was a nun looking at this problem, how would I look at it? That person was a famous samurai from history. How would the famous samurai look at it? Person's a cartoon character. How would that cartoon character look at the problem? It gives them an ability to use their deductive reasoning in order to do work. And it's can be done on sheets of paper. Just fold the paper into 8 blocks. And hey, first block, you're gonna write a color. Like the kids don't need to know at all what what the process is. A color for block 1. Block 2, you're gonna write your favorite verb. Block 3, you're gonna write the name of the last cartoon that you watched, etc. So you have all these things. The kids don't have any idea what's going on, and he's like, cool. Here's the question: what should I have for dinner tonight? What would the color say? What would the last cartoon that you watched say? Why would this? And now we have this creative constraint that's also pushing against the situation where you can't say I don't know, because you're the one that put those answers there, right? These are obviously things that you're familiar with in general. So from the perspective of whatever I'm talking about, whatever, you know, from whatever you place on the sheet of paper, right, it gives you the ability to again reframe, and we're not framing it to be correct. And that's the other thing that has to be kind of mitigating the situation. I don't care if it's right. Right is relative, right? What we're trying to do is get a bunch of answers, and that's kind of getting to your the free writing idea that you have there. Web. Want to get stuff on the sheet of paper to get the brain going, like get that adrenaline and the grease in the brain nice and lubricated, right? And so allowing you to again feel a little discomfort from having to think about how something would happen, you generally get some really interesting ideas coming out of that. Go ahead, Webbs.
Also, in real life, it's very rare that you get affirmation that your idea is correct. Like, you can come up with a solution, but it's not too often that it's going to be deemed right or wrong. More often than not, it's going to be like, it's a solution and it's some gradient of effective.
But that, I think that's in the real world. Did you find that to be true in classrooms?
Oh God, no. In classrooms, there's always a right and wrong.
This is what I'm saying. In classrooms, there is these polarities. It's either right or it's wrong. There's no like, let's try and see what happens. Maybe that's right. Maybe that's not right. Let's do it for a couple of days. Oh, that didn't work. All right, cool. What's another answer that we have now? And
that's also, what I'm saying though. Like it doesn't align with the way the world actually works, because you don't have that sense. Because I think being right or being wrong comes with this sense of security, right? There's a sense of security that like there is confirmation that this has some outcome, some solid, very clear outcome. And the reality of the world is like it's very rare that you get that super solid outcome. Whether it's building a new product, a new website, whatever, or even like relationships with other people, you don't always get that very clear black and white like differential. Like a lot of times it's fuzzy. I wonder too if that's some of the reason a lot of folks don't care for like English language art stuff, because there isn't necessarily like a clear right and wrong. It could be argued either way. And yeah, I feel like school should reflect more of that and less of it has to be one way or the other.
It's also more fun. Like just it's
Oh yeah.
a lot more fun to say, okay, what would Papa Smurf think about what I'm eating for dinner tonight? All
But it
right,
also
well,
requires a higher level of thinking because you have to be able to defend or talk about or explain like why you made that choice.
which is also true. But I mean, like I say, I have not. It's been like 7, 8 years since I read that book. I haven't had a situation in which the strategy allows students to enter where they are generally, right? So I'm coming up with the answers. I also do it the opposite way. As I said before, where I will give you the 8 things, and there may be 8 things you're totally unfamiliar with, which is the whole point. Now you got to use the Googles. Who is this person? What does this person do? All right, this was a singer. Perhaps the singer would look at it this way. This person was an astrophysicist. I don't even know what an astrophysicist does. That means you got to Google some more. What does an astrophysicist actually do? Right? Making people uncomfortable to get familiar with things and then be able to spit out an answer. And again, I'm not judging the correctness or incorrectness of the answer. The whole idea is let's generate some ideas, throw things against the wall so that now we have a whole bunch of ideas to choose from. And then I think that the most important part is not hiding the ideas at the end, right? Giving people the opportunity to exchange ideas and say, okay, this is what I put. What did you put? That gives us the opportunity to smash ideas together and say this and this might go together. Let's put these things together. Or this is a cool idea. I like that a lot. Let me steal that one from you and I'll give you this one, right? The more ideas, what's the whole quote? The idea of genius is just the doubling your failure rate. So the more ideas you got, the more likely you'll be successful in whatever endeavors that you're dealing with. So again, you can take a sheet of paper, fold it into 8 squares, just ask the kids questions, tell the kids, verbs and stuff like that. And we're going to kind of walk through a couple little ideas here, Webs. Like the technology situation now makes this like uber easy. So, Webs.
Yes.
We're going to play a game.
Yes.
I'm going to.
All right.
Yes. So, the question, Webs, is how would you improve distance learning? That is the question. Okay. Now, and I'm going to share this on the screen, and I'm going to I am going to text this to you.
Okay.
So we're going to use Jamboard just because Jamboard is one of the tools that is favored by a lot of teachers now. I can't say I'm like an uber fan of this, but hey, Jamboard is it. And we're going to kind of walk through the entire process here just because Jamboard is free. Anybody in our local school district will be able to access Jamboard with no problems. Yeah, it's simple. So again, the question is, how would you improve distance learning? Oops. I hate when it does that. How would you improve distance learning?
I'm still logging in. Give me 1 second.
All right. And there we go. We're going to use this Justice League as our crazy eights today. So we're going to look at that question from the perspective of each of the members of the Justice League. So that's going to be the goal there, is going to be looking at that question. How would you change distance learning? Let's look at it from the perspective of Wonder Woman. At this point, what would Wonder Woman do? Like, give us what would be like some adjectives about Wonder Woman that might be important that we keep in mind?
She's strong.
Strong.
Fast. Powerful.
She's also the only lady.
Yep.
Given all that stuff that you just said, what might be some things? You can use the sticky notes, you can use the text, you can draw on it. Might be some ways that Wonder Woman would approach distance learning in order to improve it.
I have view only access for some reason.
Aren't you in our organization?
Yes, I am.
Oh, why do you have only view only access?
Mm.
Yes, you have the.
I can view it. You have to hit change.
Now you have
Or
editing.
that works too. Yeah. Refreshing.
So
All
again,
right. So what was the question again?
how would you change distance learning to make it more successful? So what would Wonder Woman's perspective be on that, given the adjectives or the impressions that you have about Wonder Woman?
I think. Oh, what is happening? Why can I not write? Any day now. Hello?
You're in the iPad, I'm assuming.
I am. It's not. I can't write. It won't let me write at all.
Indeed, indeed.
That's funny.
I am actually gonna go. I've got an idea, so I'm gonna go and add one actually. Since she rides in the invisible jet, I said she would focus on the invisible components of distance learning.
I like it.
Is that supposed to be more PE?
Yeah.
More PE. Any other ideas about Wonder Woman and what she would do?
I think I'm feeling something like with her lasso of truth. Like, I'm just not sure what. Like what's related to her lasso of truth? I think that there's a component of like honesty, forthrightness. Maybe it's about like knowing yourself.
Mm. So she's not from the United States. So our EL friends and whatnot. Lasso of truth.
Yeah, like I think that she'd want to make sure that everybody learned about and shared like what works best for them as a learner, and it's really familiar with that, like a deep level of introspection. Because I feel like that's some of what truth is, right? It's like not just the truth of like someone not lying to you, but also your personal truth of because even in that the movie that just came out that was kind of trash was like, hey, you have to know in your heart what you really want.
I can see that. I can see that. Anything else from Wonder Woman?
Nah, that's good.
All right. Batman. Things that we know about Batman.
He would probably be a villain in most stories.
Perhaps.
He's really rich, affluent. He's an orphan.
Let's think straight up. I think Batman, I think gadgets. And you got to have money to get gadgets. No money, no gadgets. We have teachers and we have students that are functioning on Chromebooks that I wouldn't give to my worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So having access to the gadgets important? What say you?
I think Batman would be all about the flexibility of time, since he's kind of like a night owl, right? He's up at night, and asynchronous learning.
I think
So
that's
like if I wanted to be like, maybe I'm up late because I'm fighting villains, which means I sleep in a little bit later. I may not start my day until like 2 p.m.
I think I like that. I think also,
Oh, that's a solid one.
so I think having friends. I mean, Alfred is more of his friend than his butler. I think, but Alfred helps him coordinate stuff. Alfred also is, especially if you're going to the updated Batman movies. Alfred is essentially his tech coordinator while he's out doing his stuff, right? So being able to coordinate and combine someone, I think, is important for distance learning in order to be good. That'd be another way.
Okay, I think I want to add one more here, and that is to have a crew, whether it's the Justice League or Lucius Fox and Commissioner Gordon and Alfred and Robin. Like you have to have a crew to roll with because they each have different strengths, and it's just easier when you have not Native League, Justice League, stupid tiny typewriter.
Okay. Anything else?
Nah, who's next?
All right. Cool. Cool.
I mean, I feel like we could go on about this for a while, but
Superman.
I want to get to everybody. Superman. Oh, Superman.
I think that's kind of an important one in my opinion. Like, it shouldn't be technology for technology's sake. Superman could kill anybody he wanted to, but he doesn't. Right? He holds himself back. He doesn't like lobotomize people. At least in I think that one's a good one as well. Even though like,
Look,
go
like
ahead and explain that.
he's basically always Superman, but he's also always Clark Kent. And I think it's really easy, especially when you're working from home, and you don't really have that separation. It's easy to like just transform back and forth between one and the other. So you have to recognize that like sometimes you need to leave the Superman and just be Clark Kent and enjoy the life of Clark Kent and be deliberate about that, not like always be checking in on messages or grading papers or whatever. Like just be Clark Kent sometimes.
Indeed, indeed. I would say with that,
Yes, Taco Dog.
I think knowing your kryptonite is also important. Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that are going to cause you to go into that stressed mode where perhaps you're not going to be able to be Superman when you need to be, and avoiding those things. I think that one is super important, and one of the things one of the reasons why I don't think the distance learning went very well this time, because a lot of people were like they just weren't avoiding. They were like living in like kryptonite swimming pools.
That's true. Like, because it does require setting boundaries and being very explicit about, I'm gonna go back to Clark Kent now, and I'm gonna spend my time as Clark Kent. Because if you're always spending your time as Superman, then you don't. That's all you have is rescuing people, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like You gotta have balance.
Indeed, 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 indeed. So, anything else for Superman?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Green Lantern. This
Oh,
this is my favorite
oh,
character in the Justice League.
Green Lantern. Um,
That is what I'm gonna put for Green Lantern because that's super important to me. This is why he's my favorite.
I feel like we just did the same one, basically.
Yep.
Because I feel like that was a big part of distance learning that was really frustrating, right? This almost feels like a distance learning retro. A big part of the frustration of distance learning was felt like people kept trying to take what is and cram it into what we were stuck with, and like there was so much that could be, and we didn't want to explore what could be. We were just so focused on trying to maintain what is. Like there is some freedom in letting go of what could be. I feel like that's actually a Green Lantern thing, right? Like he was a color. He was like a pilot and then ends up becoming Green Lantern. Did he stay a pilot? I didn't read the Green Lantern comics. I only know the
I
Ryan
mean,
Reynolds
Hal
movie.
Jordan is still a test pilot in a sense, the original one, yes.
Because
But
like
he ends up, becoming parallax and all other kind of weird stuff. I hated when they did it in Green Lantern, but I think having the will and the focus to do things, I think is necessary. And the other thing I will add, that is important. I think that's another thing that was lost in distance learning. Like you don't have to go it alone. You got a whole planet full of other people who have the same super abilities that you have. Leveraging that would have made distance learning a lot better. And I think that would also have made or hybrid learning better, but we still aren't doing that very well. But it is what it is. Oh, indeed. I mean, even though he can't, he can't make constructs against yellow, which is also hilarious. But yeah, the fear
but
situation will jack you up. Yeah,
yeah, like the fear of things changing, I think was a lot of it. The fear of um feeling inadequate because you may not have had the skills in this particular area, but if you rely on that core of people behind you, you you can be successful.
facts, facts, facts. All right, let's see if we can get to all of them. Aquaman.
Oh, Aquaman. Um, ugh. Aquaman. Aquaman.
So that one's for. I mean, that would be my Aquaman my favorite Aquaman was the one where he lost his hand. He had the hook like he was Captain Hook, just because it was dope because he sacrificed his hand to save other people. And sometimes you get like a cool. I don't know if anyone's watched the IT crowd when he gets the robot hand because his hand got gangrene. His hand got gangrene. The boss gets the hand got gangrene. He gets the robot hand. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a little in order to gain a superpower. I think that the one of the things that kind of to what your point was previously, sacrificing a lot of the analog stuff and some of the like the um, I guess the temptation of going back to this previous thing, which I think is still very very much real. I think that is one of the things we have to avoid in order to go forward. And of course, they retcon every superhero. So he has two hands now, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, that's kind of ableist, but so I don't know Aquaman that well. I'm pretty sure you could like talk to dolphins and stuff, right?
Yes, he could talk to dolphins.
Okay. So I feel like my take from my parallel here is that listening to the sea creatures, like listen to what your students have to say, what's working for them, what isn't, and then adapt based on that. Like their input is valuable. They're not just, sea creatures.
I think also
Mm.
the fact that you don't have to pick analog or digital, they both can be true at the same time. I had a conversation with a couple teachers today about, oh yeah, because I may not want to use the computers anymore, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that works anymore, fam. But you don't have to use computers all the time. You have to be on the internet all the time. There's a balance you can strike. So you can be on both. You can do both things and still do both things. You know, where again, the strategy we're using right now can be done with sheets of paper. I like Namor better than I like Aquaman anyway. Namor would kick Aquaman's behind. Straight up. Namor, the Submariner was my dude as a kid. Especially when him and Dr. Doom got together. The Flash.
I guess this is no, that's not really a Flash thing. Never mind. No, I'm gonna write it anyway because I don't care.
Even with your enemies.
Yeah, like he'd always do. Like he does a lot of team ups with like Captain Cold or they like he's doesn't exclude the idea of working with someone he may not have worked with before simply because like they have past history. He looks at what's the problem in front of him and who are the people that can help him solve it the best.
Interessante.
That's a good one. Like you can't change the past. Okay, well you can, but you probably shouldn't change the past. Yeah,
bad things happen when you do.
Okay, this one is not like exclusively it's not at all the Flash. I mean, it's in the Flash's universe, but I still feel like this totally applies. It's one of my favorites too. Okay, so this is actually something that Captain Cold says. So it's more Flash like universe versus like Flash specifically. But I still think, as we're saying, make the plan, execute the plan, watch the plan go off the rails, throw away the plan. Like we talk all the time about you should have a plan Z, make sure you know what you're going to do if things don't work out right. Like be able to pivot quickly so that you're not like caught in this situation where you're paralyzed by your frustration that like something isn't going the way you want it to, because it's going to happen all the time. And you just like, yeah, you have like what's the best laid plans of mice and men so often go awry or whatever. Like same idea. Like you can do Kobayashi Maru. You can do everything right and still lose. So you can try to be as prepared as possible, but don't get down on yourself if things don't work out the way that you want them to. Like it's gonna happen.
Indeed. I dig that. Mine is I remember to eat just because he has to eat to keep his metabolism up. Self-care is important. No self-care, he can't be the Flash. And yes, he can change. You can, and again, you can go back in time. Just there might be unintended consequences. So if you decide to go back to pre-COVID, yes, you could go back there. There might be unintended consequences in terms of how your kids do. So what do you mean by loving humanity?
So one of the big things about Flash is like he represents like one of his driving forces is love and the fact like humanity and the humanity of his friends around him are the thing that sets them apart from like the villains. And that happens a lot. I think that's a really common thing, but in like superhero lore. But this idea that if a kid loses their grandparent to COVID, it doesn't matter if their work is late. Like
Mm.
If a kid is struggling because their parents both just lost their jobs, who gives a crap if they're 3 minutes late to class? Like, remember that the important thing is connecting with one another as human beings. And it's not the test, or that they need to be chastised because they didn't turn in an assignment. Like, remember to strike that balance between pushing them to be good people who get their work done and humanity, like the humanity and caring about, like, that's the reason most teachers got into the job, right? Is that we cared about the future of children. And yet I see so many teachers who seem to have completely forgotten that and are more focused on hammering in, like, minimum F is such a terrible policy because they should get zeros, and don't forget and lose your love and humanity.
I would agree. All right. Martian Manhunter.
Oh, oops, not the one I wanted.
Okay.
Jinx.
Yeah, indeed. So that's like his main deal, right? And my other one is this.
Fire.
Yep. Go ahead and explain your transform.
Oh, it's the same as yours. You can change anytime you want. Like, you don't have to be stuck with this one thing. You don't, like, if you find a tool and it starts to not work for you, you can change. If you try something out and it doesn't quite work right, you can pivot. Like, you don't have to feel locked into one way of doing things. You have the ability to shift and change and reboot anytime you want to.
So Martian Manhunter is afraid of fire, which is very interesting to me that he can change himself to anything he wants, but he's afraid of fire. But fundamentally, being afraid of fire doesn't stop him from doing his job. So even there, if there's a fear that, again, it's pretty well known by his enemies that he's afraid of fire, that doesn't stop him from going into battle and doing what he needs to do. Now, could it damage him in some way, shape, or form? Of course, but that doesn't stop him from doing his deal. So I think that's part of the distance learning. The weird thing, the first couple months, March of last year to like the end of the school year, I think those were kind of the scariest times. Um, but like, I don't know. It was interesting from August of last year to the current time where people really are. We as a system didn't do a very good job of knowing that the fire was there and kind of saying we just got to deal with it. It was this like, let's be afraid, let's be afraid and not have actual strategies in order to make sure the system was good. So looking at the fire and realizing it was there, realizing that it is there without having to be afraid of it. So what is your last one? What is the rationale?
So he was like the last green Martian, right? And he was all by himself on Earth. But even when he was like alone, because he was the last green Martian, he wasn't totally alone because he still has the rest of the Justice League and he has friends on his new planet. And people, kind of a running theme of all of this is like superheroes don't go it alone. They have a crew, they have people around them that support them, that protect them, that help them become better people. And I think that's always important to have the people have people to support you. Like, I find if I now if I try to solve a problem by myself, I get frustrated really easily because it's so beneficial and it solves problems so much faster when I have my team. When I have at least one other person that I can rubber duck to, that can hear my thoughts and give me feedback and whatever. Like, you and I have been working together for a long time now, and I straight up hate doing things alone in a lot of ways when it comes to, like, especially problem solving stuff or planning stuff, because I just find I'm more efficient when I have another person around to bounce ideas off of.
Facts. All right, last one. Cyborg. What do you mean by you don't have to be one thing? What does that mean?
So Cyborg is a cyborg, half man, half machine. And kind of like we mentioned a little while ago, like you don't have to exclusively use the computer all the time. You don't have to, you know, go backwards in time and go back to only face to face and that's the only way things were. Like you can do sort of a hybrid thing where, hey, I'm focused on this asynchronous learning for tier 1 instruction, but then I'm also like still engaging and building relationships and safely when I'm face to face with people. I think there is a way to do that. I think it just takes some skill and practice and it's something new, but you don't have to commit all the way one way or all the way the other. You can live in both worlds. What is B1 with your technology?
He is technology, right? He can hack stuff. He can like read the mother boxes and stuff. He is a piece of technology in the grand scheme of things. Like his father saved him to be this. Again, I mean, I guess that like the balance with him is like it's like what's the guy's name? Ah, shucks. The cyborg from the Marvel deals. What is the guy's name? There you go. Anyway, it's just like, is he a human, right? This is kind of the thing that he grapples with a lot.
Oh, like Vision?
No. What is the guy's name? Oh, this is gonna piss me off.
Vision is not technically a cyborg because he's not human at all.
Deathlock is who I'm thinking about.
Oh, okay.
So, which I haven't seen Deathlock in the comic in so long. So yeah, Deathlock has the same kind of issue, right? He's got this like, am I human? Am I like what am I exactly? And like when one embraces that, I know how to do things now, right? There are things that even the teacher who had no idea how to turn a computer on in March of 2020 now knows how to do, whether that's a Nearpod, a Jamboard, how to post an assignment in Google Classroom. There's something you know how to do that you have mastered to a certain extent that you could reproduce or produce on demand. And like not forgetting that and making sure that that stays in your back pocket, I think is kind of important. Anything else?
No, I'm good. I just had an idea for a blog post.
Oh, indeed. Super dope. So that is an example of you as teacher setting out the 8 ideas. That's just for the Jamboard. You can send that out to all your kids. Great. Everyone puts their little stickies all over the thing. And you've got all these ideas about how you could do stuff or whatever, or anecdotes or whatever it was, you know, make pizza, whatever it is. Like we kind of made ours anecdotes and things with the idea that we then explained it to the other person. And so this could be done again. Jamboard, I spun this up literally in 2 minutes. Comic book characters are really hot right now. The Disney movies are always things that kids already have built-in references for. The story that you're reading right now in your class, taking characters from that story or settings from that story and utilizing those to reinforce. Now you're getting 2 birds with 1 stone. We're solving this problem and we're also reviewing the work that we were doing. If you're teaching social studies, historical figures that you've discussed, what do those historical figures do? I mean, tons of really easy ways that you could pivot from this to reinforce previously taught information and then spur conversation and ideas going forward. And this is literally, you could walk into your class cold and probably set up 8 ideas very quickly and shoot them out to your kids. This is not a Mensa level strategy.
However, I would like to point out, if you think about the discussion that we were having, I think that's where this strategy really shines, is that like, you know, we didn't necessarily, and I would encourage teachers not to be sticklers about what answers should be, kind of like we were talking about at the top of the show. It's not about right or wrong. If they blur the edges of what the answer is supposed to be, like I did in that one where like, technically this isn't the Flash, but whatever, I want to add it anyway because this is something that's on my mind. The whole goal of this is to get them conversing, to get them thinking deeply about what a character would say, about making inferences about things. Like this is hitting a lot of standards as well, and it's really getting them thinking deeply about something and thinking about it in relation to another topic. So there's a lot of higher level thinking going on there, and they're having these discussions. And no matter what level a student might be at in terms of their linguistic production, they should be able to participate in that conversation. And it can be a spirited conversation. It can be something that they get really passionate about and that they get really into, because it's interesting to think about things this way.
Facts. And it's even more interesting to do what I'm about to do to Webs right now. So Webs, that was like the
Oh,
written
yay.
down. That was the written down version. This now I'm just gonna sit there and throw ideas at you and like ask you to come in. So the written down version, a lot more like controlled. Hey, I already know what's going through, what's gonna happen. I have all 8 of them there. Every kid's gonna respond to them. But this version is the version I like the most because again, you're going to generate your own ideas generally, and then you're going to have to defend. Okay, cool. So I'm not going to tell you what the question is at all. So get your iPad, get notes or whatever you utilize to do your deal. I'm not going to tell you what the question is at all. I'm just going to give you 8 statements. You give me 8 answers on your page. That's all you're going to do.
Okay.
All right. Flavor of ice cream.
Butter pecan.
All right. Let's make sure you got it written down.
Got it.
Villain from a storybook.
The Wicked Witch of the West. From Wizard of Oz.
A bone you can break in your body.
Your humerus. Okay.
All right. A fish.
A deep sea anglerfish.
All right.
Okay.
Your favorite color.
Orange.
A number between 7 and 35.
28.
How many is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6. A planet.
Neptune.
Someone you want to eat lunch with from history.
Oh, history is not my greatest subject. How about Henry VIII?
Henry VIII. Interesting choice. Bada bing. Now, she generated all those answers. I just gave her the questions. She could have written anything down that she would like to have done. Excellent. Now, I want you to explain fractions from the perspectives of any of those things you just wrote down. So each of those things you're going to go through, and you can do it out loud. Explain fractions from those ideas.
Fractions, you talking about butter pecan ice cream. Okay, so fractions are part of a whole. So I might say, like, I like to have 1/3 of my butter pecan ice cream be pecans and half of it be caramel swirl, and then the remaining can be ice cream.
Okay, interesting. Wicked Witch of the West.
Fractions with the Wicked Witch. So the Wicked Witch of the West, the Wicked Witch of the West is...
How many sisters does she have?
One witch, and she represents the West, and so I assume she has 3 other sisters, North, South, and East, and therefore she is 1/4 of the sisters of cardinal directions.
Indeed. Third one's what? Humorous?
If I were to break my humerus in 2 places, then I would have 3 sections of humerus, all of which would be broken. 3 out of 3 sections of my humerus would be broken.
Indeed. Indeed.
Oh, God.
What is the next one?
Deep sea anglerfish.
Yeah. Again, that's the one, the scary one that has a little thing that
has a light bulb. Yeah.
Indeed.
Deep sea anglerfish probably lives in the bottom 1/100th of the ocean because it lives in the deep sea.
Interesting. Okay, might be a stretch, but we'll continue.
Orange. How am I supposed to do fractions with the color orange? The color orange and fractions. Hold on, let me think. The color orange and fractions. The color orange and fractions. Okay. So the color spectrum is Roy G. Biv. ROYGBIV. That's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So there's 7 colors in that color spectrum, one of which is orange. So 1/7 of the colors are orange.
Oh, indeed. Of the primary colors. Indeed.
Oh, the next one's easy.
What's the next one?
It's 28.
Okay. Well, okay.
So I can do oh yes, see? Yep. 28 2/4 of 28 is 14. 1/7 of 28 is 4. 28 1/2 of 28 is 14. I could go on. Indeed. The numbers thing I'm totally solid with.
Indeed.
Neptune. Neptune is far away. Does it have rings? Neptune has a ring, right? That's the one that has like the ring that's up and down. So I believe it is 2 of the 8 planets that have rings. So it is 1/2 of the planets in our solar system that have rings. Assuming that is correct.
That is actually accurate.
Well, Mercury doesn't have rings. Venus doesn't have rings. Earth doesn't have rings. Mars doesn't have rings. Jupiter doesn't have rings. Saturn does.
Neptune
does.
Yes,
Uranus. Neptune does have rings. Yes. A ring.
I'm checking you for accuracy right now. I'm checking for accuracy.
Uranus does not have rings, and Pluto's no longer considered a planet.
So, okay.
Is that right?
It's an ice giant. It has rings. You could have also talked about the moons. It's a number of things you could have said in terms of fractions, but
that's true. I could have also done the easy route, which is it's 1/8 of our planets.
This is true.
1/9 if you still believe Pluto is a planet.
Well, we can't believe Pluto's a planet because it's not a planet. So that would be false science. So that's not actually true anymore. Yeah.
Okay, I'm really glad for the last one I picked. Henry VIII.
Oh wow, this is cheating. I didn't even think about. Yeah, okay, continue. He's 1/8 of the Henrys.
Oh no, that's actually not what I was going to say. I believe he had 6 wives, and I think 2 of them were named Mary. So 1/3 of his wives were named Mary.
Okay.
I think
you went to the historical one. Okay, you went to history. That works. Let's check that for accuracy though.
Yes, please do, because I can't remember if he had 6 or 8 wives, but I believe 2 of them were named Mary.
Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, 2 Annes.
And maybe it's thinking 2 Annes, not 2 Marys. Okay. Nope, I failed. 2/6 of his wives were named Anne, not Mary.
Yeah, indeed. So interesting. But first of all, you see how just useful this technique is. We could have had her go to Google and verify stuff. Okay, this is what's going on. Like when you do really weird stuff, kids go all kind of, no, that's not true. And you get this really interesting
engagement.
And it's just literally, you can make 8 things up off the top of your head and have the kids write them down and say, okay, cool. Here's the question. The question is good to have the question handy. How would they go? How would they fix a flat tire? Oh, okay, cool. Now you have this really weird, I'm trying to stretch. I got to pick up Do I actually know who Henry VIII is? I don't. Let me go to Google really quickly and go and see if there's any information about Henry VIII that can help me. Do I know enough about Neptune to be able to answer this question? Nope. Let me go back into the Googles and find information about Neptune. It forces students to reconcile what they know and think they know with what they actually know, and how that pertains to actually answering the question, which, again, it is hilarious to see people go back and forth and like the random associations with the question that they'll figure out. And it is a pretty, I can take it out the box strategy. Like, I don't have to do any pre-work, no prep work whatsoever. It's just like, let's make up 8 questions. I can give them 8 characters, anything that 8 numbers, whatever. Here's the question. Figure it out, kid.
I think too, thinking about how the Octalysis framework applies to this, we've talked about this on the show before, but essentially it's like these 8 different qualities that make things engaging for people. You have that customization that people look for because I'm picking my answers and I have some reflection of myself in the choices that I'm picking. And then the challenge of the constraint makes it engaging, makes it interesting. And you have to like kind of think your way around it. And it does require you to like shift that lens of thinking, kind of like though, but what if there was a tiger thing, right? It's throwing this bit of chaos into things, and that kind of keeps it interesting and also shifts your thinking away from what you would traditionally, a route you would probably traditionally go down.
Yep. So that is like, again, a $5 strategy that gives $1 million results generally, and something that it doesn't get old because you can customize it. Everyone's going to approach that strategy a different way every time, especially if you change the questions or the qualities. Again, the Jamboard we used tonight was just, that is free. It doesn't cost anything. If you're a Clark County School District teacher, all your kids have access to Jamboard. You have access to Jamboard right through your Google Meets as well. So that's not a problem. It works synchronously. It also works asynchronously. And like the Jamboard can stay open the entire day or whatever you need it to do. All right. Yeah, so what we're going to try to do is break down a strategy that is in use that we kind of dig just because I think people are going to need them strategies once they get back to that hybrid situation. And that one, again, it could be all analog. It could be digital. It could be digital and analog. There's no real... The way that the strategy is shown in the sprint book is totally different than the way that I kind of bastardized it and like put my own stamp of approval on it. So I really wanted kids to have the opportunity to authentically generate ideas, answers, conversation without me having to do very much. And like literally, I can drink my coffee while people are having arguments about Martian Manhunter and what he would do with distance learning. And you laugh and we throw things on the board. All right. So that's our show for tonight, folks. Webbs, you got any closing parting shots?
No, but I realized we should do an episode on retrospectives.
Indeed. Perhaps Sunday we'll do
that. Oh, yeah, because actually that would tie in with the blog post I was just thinking we should write.
Indeed. So, just friends, don't stress about April the 6th. It's coming, unfortunately. Just prepare as best and have a good, like, it might, especially if you have the double vaccination, like go in the woods, do spring break, or go to the beach, or go to some place where you're going to be able to relax yourself before you have to deal with the utter chaos that is coming. But get the double vaccination first. Pretty please with sugar on top. That's probably going to be the thing. And don't stop wearing your mask, people, please. Like, that's madness at this point. Wear the mask.
I'm basically going to wear a mask forever.
Oh, yeah. I will never teach without a mask again. That is absolute facts. Like, I will show kids a picture of me before the first day of school. Like, this is what I look like being under the mask, but you'll never know. That is pretty much what that is.
It's been really nice not getting like virus sick for the last year, because not being around people wearing a mask out in public, that kind of a thing.
This has been true.
I want to keep that up. Oh, indeed. I have a dog that very much wants to eat.
Indeed. All right. Hasta la vista, hasta la pasta, as I tell my students. We will see you on the next go round. I got to find my thing. Where's the thing at? There it is. Put it on my other screen. Like this 2-screen life is wonderful. Just sometimes I lose stuff.
Oh, I do all the time. The number of times my team can attest to when I'm like, sorry, I can't find my mute button. It's buried somewhere on my screens.
So, I mean, other than that, We'll see you on Sunday, and since Webb says retrospective, we'll do that.